Arizona State University, the hometown Sun Devils for yours truly, accepted or took a self-imposed postseason ban for the issues that it faced and the rules that it broke during the Herman Edwards era. What do you guys think?
So I got two thoughts on this. One, people want to get mad at the NCAA, so-and-so. Arizona State, what they were doing under Herm Edwards was actually bad. There's a pandemic going on that's killing people, and they basically and all of college football paused recruiting. There was no recruiting going on, except for, apparently, at Arizona State and Tennessee. Taking guys
and Michigan too, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. This is putting people in danger. This is putting your players in danger. It's putting their families in danger. This is not good. So this is not, this kid's, wanted to eat and I gave him a $200 check. This is, no one in the sport is recruiting. So let's start there, right? This is not your sort of normal everyday NCAA fare. Now, what I don't like is that you're penalizing guys that had nothing to do with this. From what I understand, this was not well received. This was not expected from the guys on the ground, the players. There's not been a lot of transparency on how the Arizona State leadership got to this end. And I think that the elephant in the room and sort of something that's emblematic of the state of college football is that Tennessee got out of a bowl ban in theory because they just paid $8 million. That was essentially like a 2-year bowl ban that they just paid out of. Arizona State, they wouldn't. I believe ESPN asked them for a comment. They declined to comment if they could have a similar thing. But I think the reality is that an $8 million check for Tennessee to cut is different from an $8 million check or whatever Arizona State was going to cut. And they may not have that in the budget right now. And so now, because of all of this, because of the sins of others, the current players are suffering. Not a fan, but again, don't do bad things. Don't. This is bad. This is actually bad.
The peril of trying to penalize people in the college football realm is that by the time these are usually completely fleshed out in terms of investigations and really knowing what happened 2 or 3 years go by, and the players who did those things are gone. And the only people that you're penalizing are the unpaid athletes that you're supposed to be supporting and helping flourish. And I don't know if
even driven by the players too.
Yeah,
this is coaches.
This is coaches. Yeah. But the funniest thing about it too, I was like, what are you going to do? Vacate wins? Like at a certain point, it's like the only thing that they can do. And I remember, you guys remember when we were in quarantine, right? And I was playing NBA 2K every day, or the golf game and I was living with my parents for the first time since I was 18, full time for a few months. You remember how serious the whole, everybody was taking the pandemic. And it's not that is right or wrong, but we were all very cautious, staying at home, quarantining, staying away from people, wearing masks. Like now that we're a few years removed from it, the severity of the illness and the way that people are treating it now is just much different. That mindset is changed. But in that moment, when everybody was doing their part to try to beat this thing, this is when all this was occurring. So it's very hard to put yourself back into your mind frame in 2020 when this was all going on and remembering how appalled you would have been at the time, because it was a serious public safety issue at the moment. Now, you might not look at it this way now, but remember when this was occurring, this was like a huge and complete blatant disregard to the public safety.
This is like summer 2020. We're talking.
Yeah, this was like when it was scary as hell.
Yes.
Not that it isn't now, but like when everybody was like scared and at home, and I was afraid to go see my friends. I didn't want to get my parents sick. And they were just like going on visits and hosting people. Like it was a complete and utter disregard for human safety. That to me is the number one takeaway of this. So, Sam, is there anything that we're missing here that crossed your mind?
I think just the thing that frustrates me about this whole situation is how long it takes the NCAA to get through its punishment phase. Because we have allegations and we have investigations, and then the punishment is doled out again to people who really didn't have anything to do with it. And that's the frustrating part of this. I remember when Baylor went through its scandal at the end of the Art Briles era, and those sanctions weren't announced until 2021. And we were on 2 head coaches past Art Briles by that point. And actually 3 if you want to count the acting head coach in 2016. So, and they had some recruiting restrictions. There was generally light penalties placed on Baylor for that. But my beef is with how slowly the process moves, and thus you have a roster of Arizona State with 50 plus players who just came in, and now right before the season, you're being told you're not going to be able to play in the postseason, and
a lot of those
that could have been a goal. Right? Yeah, you got a lot of seniors, and you could have that could be something you're aspiring to as this program tries to rebuild. So, I think you guys are right in terms of you have to take this issue seriously, and any program that was doing recruiting during that dead period when everybody was not allowed to do in-person recruiting, obviously I understand there needs to be consequences for that, but I just the pace at which these things move, regardless of what the issue, whether it's impermissible benefits or whatever we want to penalize teams for, it just moves way too slowly, and it ends up affecting people who weren't a part of it. And it's really unfortunate that we are in this place. And I don't know what the answer is, because you do have to have some level of accountability when rules are broken in order to keep some integrity, I guess, within the sport. But just the people not being a part of it, being penalized for it, it just really stinks.
And the ringleaders of all this too are Antonio Pierce and Herm Edwards. They're not coaching college football again. So if you drop a heavy show cause, you're not even really doing anything. Like, those guys are not coming back to college football. So the whole thing is just, it's not great.
I have a really hard time with this, guys, and help guide me through this. I couldn't care less about what Jim Harbaugh did, right? Mm-hmm. Like the hamburger thing or whatever that he's going to be missing 3 games for this year. Like the NCAA's punishment and his role in whatever happened there. Like, I wrote a column saying I couldn't care less about this. Let's just get this over with so we don't have to think about it anymore.
Well, before you go forward, Ari, he's being punished for lying.
Yeah.
More than what he actually did.
But I'm not outraged by what he did, which is the point here I'm going to make.
Yes.
So if there's a Michigan fan or an Arizona State fan who's listening, they could see some inconsistency with my thought process, because I take what Arizona State did very seriously. Both occurred during the pandemic, if I'm correct on this. The difference in my mind is that Jim Harbaugh walked to a restaurant and met recruits, right? And like Arizona State was full blown, like having visitors on campus. So like traveling from out of state, even, I believe. So like that's the difference. But what Jim Harbaugh did, it was against the rules. He's being punished for those. He's being punished for lying, all those things. But I think that what Arizona State did, if you're going to compare it to Michigan, is just far more egregious and inappropriate. So I just wanted to put that out there and make sure that no one, commented, but actually. I don't like but actually comments.